Go ahead and get ready to do this here. Now, this is an old lesson that, let me see, I gotta find it here. It should be right here. One of these old lessons. Can y'all see that? Hopefully y'all can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, this is where we're gonna start at. So, of course, I'm gonna be asking questions. Again, it's just us up here, so don't be afraid to answer. But I got so many of these that I want to start going through, and I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna finish Jonah probably tonight. Get that up there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and finish the we was in the tribulation and all that. I'm gonna go ahead and get that up there too, because I got so much new stuff, and then we're gonna talk about our trip for the Passover in Florida. We'll talk about that too. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. Understanding covenants and how they work according to Scripture. Now, some of y'all should remember about covenants. Sister Kim, what can you remember about a covenant?
Well, it was a marriage that took place on top of when Mount Sinai.
Right, that's a covenant.
When they gathered, they all came in agreement and told him that they would follow and keep his laws, statutes, his ordinances,
Exactly.
commandments.
Okay. Nay, what can you tell me about covenants?
It's a promise that you promise that you will keep.
Okay. Trey, are you there?
Okay. Yes, it's no you there.
Okay, what can you tell me about covenants, young man?
It's an agreement or vow that the Most High made with our ancestors.
Okay. Wife, what can you tell me about covenants? What's the components of a covenant? In other words, how did
agreement, a meal, a covenant confirming meal.
Okay, you have a covenant confirming meal to confirm it. But what takes place? Can anybody tell me what takes place in a covenant? Okay, that's okay. We're gonna get to it. That's why we're gonna do this. Me and Trey been up here going around with this stuff, and I came across this, and I said I want to go over it because with all the stuff that's going on right now, we all need to keep this in our mind.
Responsibilities and blessings and curses are attached.
Yes, always responsibilities, blessing, and curses. Okay, let's get to it. But it's one key thing.
Can I say action?
Yeah, it's action involved in it too. That's right, because it's action that's involved for you to keep your part of the covenant, right? But then when we pray about when we always thank Yah for His Son, how He came and was slaughtered, right? And it was blood that was let out. So that's the main part of everything y'all said is right. But the main thing we looking for is the blood.
The covenant of the blood.
The covenant of the blood. So let's go ahead and get with this now. Now, it says before I dig into that, this is an old lesson. This lesson, let me see. I don't know, it's gotta be over maybe 10, 15. I don't know how old it is, but it's old. And this is when I was studying with Kasadaba. And after I had came out of Israel of God, I was there for like 10 years. And so we kept getting the same lessons, and we never, it's a great place to start. I have nothing bad to say about them. It was just that I wanted to go to another level, and I knew there was another level. So that's when Jeshurun, he was going there as well, took us, and he said, man, we got this other place we want to check out. So we went over there, and then we was over at Kasadaba, and that's how I started finding out about the Sod level of learning. But that's okay. So this is where these classes come from. So they're old. They're one of his classes. It says, before I dig into the differences in the Hebraic belief versus the Church of Christian belief, I want us to understand how Yahuwah operates with his people. All things are done through agreements, meaning contracts, vows, right? Covenants, etc. I want us to learn how all of this got started and how division has set in due to lack of knowledge. The most common argument put forth by Christians in opposition to the Torah and the law is based on covenant theology. Very important. They argue that the new covenant has replaced the old covenant, which we know is impossible. The King James, as well as other English Bibles, separate the books in this manner, further leaning, in other words, further pushing people to really believe, well, it is a new covenant. But we're going to look at that word new, and you're going to see what it means. There is an old part, in other words, Old Testament, and a new part, in other words, New Testament. We will talk about Testament in just a minute. The New Testament is treated like it is Elohim's. Now he's using Elohim. We know we say Elohim, but Elohim is correct as well, because if we went to the Septuagint, the translation that was translated for the Hebrews that was in the Greek captivity to understand, we would see that this is the name that they use. So if you went to the Septuagint, you're going to see Elohim. Last will and testament, replacing the Old Testament. His former will and testament, Christians will say that Elohim was replacing the law of Musha, or Moses. You hear him say that, oh, that's Moses' law. Well, we know it's not Moses' law, because we know that the Elohim was the one that wrote it with his own finger and gave it to Moses. He did it twice, right? And then we know Moses went back on the mountain, and everything Yahuwah dictated to him, he wrote down. So this is where we got our judgments and our statutes from. So it's not that this is, they'll call it the law of Moses because Moses was the intercessor at that time. But just like now, they should be calling the New Testament, you could say the law of the Mashiach, because he was over that. He was the testator over that because he shedded blood, right? Because Paul told us that when it's a covenant, there must needs a testator or somebody to shed blood.
Mm-hmm.
So the New Testament is treated like it is Elohim's last will and testament, replacing the Old Testament, right? So what? You see, with the law of Christ. You'll hear him say that. Well, we're going to look at some of this, because whenever the Mashiach start talking about the commandments, he's telling you the same thing that he gave you when he was on top of the mountain in the spirit, right? One deals with laws we cannot do, and therefore he came up with grace after fulfilling the law. That's what they try to say. But is this what the word really says? Did Elohim make a new last will and testament as a result of the Mashiach's death? No. According to covenant theology, now this is covenant theology, there are two types of covenant that Elohim make with mankind: a covenant of works and a covenant of grace. This is according to them. Another variation of covenant theology labels three of them, adding a covenant of redemption that relates specifically to the Mashiach. Covenant theology says that all of the previous covenants, those in the Old Testament, were covenants of works. They remain in effect only in the conditions, if the conditions are met. It is also added that Yashriel or Israel failed to keep the conditions, therefore the covenant is done away with, it is fulfilled, which we know once you make a covenant, it's forever, right? Because if that was the case, think about it like this. If that's the case because what the children of Israel never was obedient and they broke the covenant, then how could they still be the same? Because, and what I'm trying to get you to understand is because the covenant that gave them the chance to get the covenant was made with Abraham. And we know all that's throughout time. So once you make a covenant, that is it. There is no turning back. It's too late. It's done. It's there forever. All right. So now it says, therefore the covenant is done away with, it is fulfilled. A covenant theology defines the new covenant or testament as a covenant of grace, and it remains in effect forever. So let's look at something here real quick. Let me go back. Let's look at this word new, because we got to get that. Let's look at this word new. Okay, can anybody see this thing here? Anybody see?
Yes.
Yes.
So this new, let's see. Now, better yet, I'm gonna do it like this. Let's put a covenant in there, because we'll be on this thing forever looking for that. Y'all see what I'm doing? So when you're doing your studies, again, Sister Valerie is just, I gave her the app for the Blue Letter last week, so she's just learning this, but so it's gonna really help her too. Let me see. Let me go right in. Where I want to go. I'm gonna go here. All right, let's see. Perform mercy crime, remember his covenant. Let's see. And you'll see this a lot too, to perform the mercy promise to our fathers and do and to remember his covenant. You'll see that a lot. You are the children of the prophets and of the covenant which Elohim made with our fathers. See, it's all over. And so now, because by the time we get done with this, you're going to understand exactly what that means, right? You're going to understand exactly what that means. Let's see. Because when they say covenant, we're going to know they're talking about the 10 Commandments. But that's why we learn these words, because, let me see, what am I looking for? That's why we learn these words, because, let's see, it's because when we read Paul's writings, we know that seeing certain words like righteousness, you know what I'm saying, just, upright, people that gets past people. Okay, let's see. For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many remissions of sins. Okay, let's see. Let's see what the Mashiach. Let's look into that. See what we get out of. Hold on. Let's look at this. Okay. The new. It kind of looks like a different. So, okay, so when we get to this word, he said the New Testament, new respects of form, recently, fresh, right? New kind, unprecedented, novel, uncommon, unheard of. Let's see, freshness. There's another word I'm looking for that's going to give us where it says to, it's like a new thing, like you got a Cadillac, right? Every year the Cadillac comes out with a new type of car. Okay, that's not the one I'm looking for. Hold on a minute. But it's still a Cadillac. They just add some new features to it. I'll find this before it's over with. I don't know what's going on with me today. But anyway, we'll go back to doing what we was doing until I can find that. Trey, you got anything you want to add to that?
I was going to say, look, I guess type in New Commandment in Blue Letter Bible, and then when you find that scripture, then look up the word new.
Okay. Let's try it like this. Let me see. All right, here we go. Oh, you know what, Trey? That's where we was at. We went right there. I don't know why I'm blanking out today. Okay, let's look at this here. Because you'll hear a lot of Hebrews say this as well. And I was planning on reading it before we even got started. I don't even know what's on my mind today. All right, so let's look at this. At the same time, says Yahuwah, will I be the Elohim of all the families of Israel, and they shall be my people. So we know that shows us again, this is in the future. This is Jeremiah chapter 31. And he's going to talk about this covenant. Now, so we know this is way up in the future. So again, that kills their covenant theology. That Israel is done away with, now it's the church. Because we see here he's coming back telling you who he is after, right? Thus says Yahuwah, the people which were left of the sword found grace. Now, that's very important, because we know that tells us what? With this tribulation and all this war and all this other stuff that's getting ready to start, we went through this, so we know a lot of us is going to be killed. We're not just going to fly off nowhere, and we found out that the tribulation is 3.5 years, not 7, as they told us when we was going to these places. So, and then he said, sword found grace in the wilderness, because we did the class on the wilderness, for those that are still alive, not put in jail, not set on fire, not condemned for trying to keep the commandments, because you will be tested. Even Israel, when I went to cause him to rest, Yahuwah have appeared of old unto me, saying, yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. See? That's everlasting. That's a covenant. Therefore, with love and kindness have I drawn thee. Again, I will build thee, and thou shalt be built, O Virgin of Israel. Thou shalt again be adorned with the tabrets, and shalt go forth in the dances of them that make merry. So it's going to be a good time in the Mashiach's kingdom, right? Thou shalt yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria. The planter shall plant and shall eat them as common things. For there shall be a day that the watchmen upon Mount Ephraim shall cry, arise ye, and let us go up to Zion, unto Yahuwah our Elohim. But thus says Yahuwah, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nation. Publish ye, praise ye, and say, O sovereign, save thy people, the remnant of Israel. So that's very important. And when we get on, I got a class that we're gonna do in Florida on conduct. And you're gonna understand that because we know it's only gonna be a small number. And then some people will say, well, how could there be a small number of people that's gonna be saved? Because in Revelation, it says a number that no man could number. Yeah, because you're talking about from Adam all the way up to today and beyond. But he's always had a remnant, and it's only going to be a remnant that's going to get into this thing, that's going to get into this kingdom. It says, behold, I will bring them forth from the north country and gather them from the coast of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame, the women with child, and her that travaileth with child together. A great company shall return hither. They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. So we know that, right? We got a class on that. Hear the word of Yahuwah, O you nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, he that scattereth Israel will gather him and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. For Yahuwah has redeemed Jacob and ransomed him, right? That's dealing with that blood. Anytime you see these two words, you know it's got to do something with some blood. From the hand of him that was stronger than he. Therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Zion, and shall flow together to goodness of Yahuwah, for wheat and for wine, for oil, and for the youth of the flock and of the herd, and their soul shall be as a watered garden, and they shall not sorrow any more at all. Right? Then shall the virgin rejoice in the dance, both young man and old together. For I will turn their mourning into joy, and I will comfort them and make them rejoice from their sorrow. And I will satiate the soul of the priest with fatness, and my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, says Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel, weeping for her children, refused to be comforted for her children because they were not. Now we know that this also happened. This was prophesied about the Mashiach and Herod, when Herod was going to come and kill the babies, right? Trying to find a Mashiach. Okay, so let's keep going. Thus says Yahuwah, refrain thy voice from weeping and thine eyes from tears. For the work shall be rewarded. Okay, I need anybody go on mute. Go on mute for me. Okay, says Yahuwah, and they shall come again from the land of the enemy. And there is hope in thine end, says Yahuwah, that thy children shall come again to thy own border. I have surely heard Ephraim bemoaning himself, thus thou hast chastised me, and I was chastised as a bullock, accustomed to the yoke. Turn thou me, and I shall be turned, for thou art the Elohim, or Yahuwah my Elohim. Surely after that I was turned. I repented, right? So, and after that I was instructed. These are key points right here when you start talking about somebody being repentant. I repented. Okay, but then did you turn from what you, I don't do that no more. Okay, but are you being instructed? And the only way we can be instructed is by the commandments, right? Now let's look at this. Is Ephraim my dear son? Is he a pleasant child? For since I spake against him, I do earnestly remember him still. Therefore my bowels are troubled for him. I will surely have mercy upon him, says Yahuwah. Set thee up waymarks, make thee high heaps, set thine heart toward the highway, even the way which thou wentest. Turn again, O virgin of Israel, turn again to these cities. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For Yahuwah has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. We see that happening right now. Especially when you start talking about in the house of Judah. Because these brothers out here, they suffering. But only because they still refuse to keep his commandments. But these women out here are doing their thing. They going to school. They buying their own house. They got their own car. You understand what I'm saying? They understand what's going on in this world. They might not have no spiritual understanding, but they understand this one. But these black men out here is lost. They don't have a clue about nothing. And if these women weren't taken care of, they probably wouldn't have nowhere to go but back home to their mama. Jeremiah 31:23, thus says Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. As yet they shall use this speech in the land of Judah and in the cities thereof. when I shall bring again the captivity, and Yahuwah bless thee, O habitation of justice and mountain of holiness. And it's just not in Israel, it's in all nations. These women they just coming up. But we see that. That's the new thing that Yahuwah put forth. Because I remember when we was a little kid, you know, I remember the women burning their bras because they wanted rights. Well, they got them. They ain't got to burn nothing no more. And there shall dwell in Judah itself and in all the cities thereof together a husbandman, and they that go forth with flocks. For I have satiated the weary soul, and I have replenished every sorrowful soul. Now, upon this I awakened, and behold, and my sleep was sweet unto me. So y'all done showed him some deep things, right? All right, let's look at this now. Now, this is another thing that gets people jacked up. So you say, oh, see, there it is. This is what the author put in place here. It says not in the scriptures, but we're going to look at this. Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast. And it shall come to pass that, like as I have watched over them to pluck them up and break down and to throw down and to destroy and to afflict, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, says Yahuwah. Okay. In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten a sour grape and the children's teeth are set on edge. Because, you know, this is what's going on right now. A lot of people say, well, I don't feel like it's fair. You know, why should we have to pay for all the craziness our ancestors did? But this is what Yah is saying. He said, but everyone shall die for his own iniquity, and every man that eateth a sour grape, his teeth shall be on edge. Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Now, right here, we see this. And right here, this is what makes it's a new covenant. Let's go look and see if it's a new covenant. Let's go look and see. So we're going to go to the word new. How do we say it?
Strong's H2319. Hadash.
Hadash, right?
Hadash.
Hadash. Okay, so let's go here. So we see the elements of it. We can easily break this down, right? But we're not Hey Dalet Sheen, right? If we broke that down, boy, that's gonna say a whole lot. But we're not after that today. So new thing, fresh. Okay, let's see. Fresh, a new thing. Let's go see what this Brown Driver Briggs has to say. Let me see. Let's look at this so we can see something else. See if we can find something else because I can't see the scene what I'm looking for. All right, this is what I gotta ask somebody to do. Let's see. Let's go to the we're gonna go to the root word here. Let's see what else we gonna gather out of this. See, this is what we're looking for. See? Now this is from the root word. Just think about it like this. When I'm looking at a bush, I'm pulling the apples off the bush. The apples is okay, this is part of the bush. It's part, but I want to go down to the root when I want to get stuff. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you're not going to have a root word. It depends. But since we in the Hebrew, we know there's going to be a root word. So it just means to what? To renew. Renew your license when you go down there every year. After every 5 years or 6 years, you got to go renew your license or to repair because the breach was broken. To renew, make anew, to repair. This is what he's talking about. So it's not no new covenant. It's a repaired covenant or a renewed covenant. Like I said, you get that Cadillac every year. After 2 years, I know when I was a shorty, that's what they used to do every 2 years. They go and get a new one. It's still a Cadillac. It's just this one got the lights on it and it came with a different package. There ain't no difference. So it's the same thing now because we know when the Mashiach came, he told you, you love me, keep my commandments. I follow my father's commandments and I'm giving them to you. You got to do the same thing. If we know if we went to Romans chapter 5, what is it going to tell us? That by keeping the commandments, we receive grace, not just because it's there. So let's go back to finish this scripture out. That's very important. But see, that's what happens. This is why we use a lot of tools in this class because we have to get to the bottom of things. We can't just read on top of this book because now people those that's been in class for a while, they understand that it's a lot of words that's added that weren't even here. And there's a lot of stuff that was taken out. And we can prove that by going to the Septuagint and other sources, right? Now, let's look at this. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. No, this is going to be something else, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, says Yahuwah. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. Now, this is how, because some of us might run and talk to somebody and run and go say, but see, dog, this is the new, we under the new covenant. Okay, let's see, because he's going to tell us and show us right here what it's going to take, or how you're going to know that you're under the new covenant. After those days, says Yahuwah, I will put my law in the inward parts. Okay, we know that ain't happening with all the chaos and craziness going on. That can't be happening. And we're talking about people that go to class, or people that keep the Shabbat, and people that keep Sunday, and right in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Okay, that hasn't happened yet, because we ain't even been gathered. And they shall teach no more everyone his neighbor. That's what that means. Y'all wouldn't have to come up here to class no more. You wouldn't have to go to the Israel of God. You wouldn't have to go to none of these places, because guess what? It's already going to be in you. So we know that you can't be under no new covenant. So if you're supposed to have them fringes, don't put them on. You're supposed to have your head covered, cover your head. Because you'll run into some Hebrew that say, well, no, since the Mashiach came. I said, man, you sound like a Christian. Because you telling me since the Mashiach came, he did away with all that? That's what they say. So you just keep the commandments, but, I don't get it. But it's okay. Now we know, and we're going to keep reading, we're going to see that this is not happening yet. And every man, his brother saying, no, Yahuwah. See, you ain't to tell them, at this time, you're not going to have to say to anybody, do you know about Yah? Do you know about the commandment? You ain't going to do that, because it's already going to be in everybody that's going to be left. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, says Yahuwah, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I remember their sins no more. So we know what iniquity is. That's just the last straw of sin, right? Thus says Yahuwah, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and the stars for a light by night, which divides the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Yahuwah of hosts is his name. Host of what? The host of the armies of Nishamayim. And those ordinances depart from me. If those ordinances depart from me, says Yahuwah, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me. So his ordinance is a ordinance of the moon and the star. In other words, what he's trying to tell you is that his commandments ain't going nowhere. Thus says Yahuwah, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, says Yahuwah. Because we know this is not going to happen. Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, that the city shall be built to Yahuwah from the tower of Hananiel and into the gate of the corner. And the measuring line shall yet go forth over against it upon the hill Gareb, and shall compass about Goeth, and the whole valley of the dead bodies and the ashes, because we know where this is coming from, right? And all the fields unto the brook Kendron, unto the corner of the horse gates toward the east, shall be holy unto Yahuwah, and it shall be plucked up. It shall not be plucked up nor thrown down anymore forever. So that just goes, that just kills all that. So we know that ain't none of this stuff happening. So the Mashiach came and did his part, and it's up to us to do our part, to return, because that's where the wedding comes from. If you find yourself at the wedding of the Lamb in all white, then you know now, okay, here's this new covenant. Because without that, you are not under the new covenant yet. It has not the renewed or the repaired covenant. Everybody understand that? All right, let's keep going. What was I at, y'all? Okay. All right, so this can y'all see this? Can y'all see the screen? Everybody see the screen? Somebody?
Yes.
Okay. Whenever a believer references the Torah and approaches, let's get back up here. I got to get this. According to covenant theology, there are two types of covenant that Elohim makes with mankind: a covenant of works and a covenant of grace. So we hear this all the time. Another variation of covenant theology labels three of them, adding a covenant of redemption that relates specifically to the Mashiach. Covenant theology says that all the previous covenant, those in the Old Testament, were covenants of works. They remain in effect only in the conditions are met. It is also added that Yasharal failed to keep the condition, therefore the covenant is done away with, it is fulfilled. Covenant theology defines the new covenant or testament as a covenant of grace, and it remains in effect forever. So just by going through what we went through, you can see this as foolishness, right? whenever when I'm talking about not the class, it's not what the teacher here is saying. It's this covenant theology, if you will. We can see there's nothing to that. But a lot of people are stuck there. Whenever a believer references the Torah and approaches a Christian, not all the time, referencing covenant theology, there is conflict and immediate disagreement. Why? Because covenant theology says that the Old Testament has been replaced by the New Testament, and the Old Covenant is no longer the proper source of spiritual instruction. Well, we already know now that you ain't going to be under no New Covenant until you get that white garment on. So it just goes to show you that it can't be right. Covenant theology lumps all former covenants, Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and David, into one Old Testament or covenant, labeling it as a testament or a covenant of works and making the new covenant a renewed testament of grace. And that's all the word testament means too. It just means covenant, right? There's a major difference between a testament and a covenant in English. The last will and testament of a dying person has the strength of a vow. Vows are used in covenants. Elohim vows to us when he makes his covenants. A vow of marriage makes a covenant of marriage. But a covenant of marriage does not require the death of anyone. If you review all the covenants Elohim has made prior to the renewed covenant, who of necessity died that made the covenant? The Elohim we serve is the Elohim of the living. He makes living covenants. Very important. Very important. Eternal life is what makes biblical covenants everlasting. This statement in Hebrews applies to a last will and testament of a person, not to a biblical covenant made with Elohim, because you'll see people go there in Hebrews too. The Bible is organized and printed by the church fathers. Very important to keep in mind, because you got to know people like just John Calvin and Jerome and all these things. See, that's how you really understand the mindset of this Christianity. Because these are the people that we're going after to try to help them come up out of that. The Bible is organized and printed by the church fathers to support their theology about the Old Testament. Hold on, excuse me 1 second. Everything is lumped together as an old covenant. And then starting with the Gospels, headed by a page never written by any apostle, there is a page called the New Testament. The definition for our present Bible did not actually happen until the 4th century by Jerome, the Bishop of Rome. So a lot of these things like that, like what I just showed y'all, where it says New Covenant, that's stuff they added. When you turn over there, after you come out of Malachi, the New Testament, that's their stuff. This was never really there. If we went and we got if we went and got the Peshitta, if we went and got a Greek Peshitta, which is going to give you a way better understanding than that King James Version, then we know that you might not even see that there. And I can really walk over here and see for myself right now. The scriptures say that Elohim had made 6 covenants with us and plans to make one more when the Mashiach returns. The scriptures define a covenant as a cutting agreement. Remember this, y'all? As a cutting agreement. The Hebrew word is brit. As you will see, Elohim cuts something to make a covenant with us. Almost all covenants are made with blood. So let's go look at some of this. Let's go look at some of this. Okay, let's go to Genesis. I think it's 7. Is it 17? Let me get my Bible out. Give me a second. Let me make sure. Genesis chapter 17, I think it's going to give you a real good example. Okay. Now we have 17. Let's go to 15. I believe it's 15. Oh, well, they're getting old now. My mind ain't working like it used to be. Let me see. All right, let me see. Give me a second. Okay, let's start here. We're gonna start here at 15. We gotta get the understanding. Okay, this is how this kind of kicks off. Abraham promised the son. Can everybody see the blue letter? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. After these things, the word of Yahuwah came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abraham said, sovereign Elohim, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eleazar of Damascus? Okay, so we know this is one of his best helper friends, right? Abraham said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. If I'm not mistaken, I think this cat here was an escaped slave that Abraham brought in his house, because we know when we go to the book of Jubilees, or we go to the book of Jasher, one of them tells us that this brother was so deep, Yah was blessing him so strong, and he didn't even really care about the material part of it. If any stranger happened to walk past their encampment, he would go out to them himself, talk to them, bring them back to the camp, feed them, make them comfortable. And as they was going on for the rest of their journey, he would take a bag full of silver and give it to them so that they could have good fortune on their way. So that's why this brother was getting this stuff, because he didn't care nothing about it. He was a true servant, and he was such a friend to Yahoo, especially after he did what he did with his son. What did Yahoo say? Now I know that you my friend. So this is the whole thing here. So who else better to make the covenant with that's going to be for all men, especially the house of Israel, but for all men as well, with Abraham? So we got to see how this goes down. And Abraham said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir. Who's he talking about? Isaac. But he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad and said, look now toward heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. And he believed in Yahweh. This is the key right there. He counted to him for righteousness. Let's go look at this. He believed him. When you hear these young brothers on these the guys be rapping that Hebrew, and they be like, man. This is what they saying. It's assurance. He's established, right? Trusty. Let's see here. Let's go all the way down. Trust and believe, right? Let's see something here. Let's see if we can find something else that's rooted even a little bit better. Let's see. To support with arm, carry like a child, one who carries and cares for a child. We can go here and get some more information. Let's see. But we know in other instances that we'll see that this word is reliable, it's faithful, but it also means keeping the what? Keeping the commandments. That's what it's talking about, because we know Abraham knew about them because they was taught to him, right? How long who can tell me how long Abraham stayed in the cave when he was hiding from Nimrod?
It wasn't 7 years, was it?
Was it 7? Is he right?
I thought it was 40.
Is it 40? Okay, that's some homework. Y'all need to go find out. Next class, we're going to talk about it. I can tell you, but it's not going to help you. But you do know that it happened, right? So let's look at this righteousness. All right, let's see what this is. Of law, justice, righteousness of Elohim, right? Righteousness in case of cause, righteousness, truthfulness, right? Of prosperity of people, righteous acts. That's why we up here now on the Shabbat, because we practicing the righteous acts. And what do you mean righteous acts, Elder? Well, he said that that's the fourth. What commandment? What commandment is that? Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Which one is that? Is it the fourth one? All right then. So that's what we're doing right now. But other words you'll see. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's hit this root word right here. Okay. All right. So sometimes you'll look at this word righteous and it's going to say of divine instruction, of divine law, because we know the law is divine because it was given by the creator of all things, and it was given by the lawmaker, because there's only one lawmaker. We know that. There's only one lawgiver. All right. So let's keep going. And he believed Yahuwah, and he counted him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am Yahuwah that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Sovereign Elohim, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? Okay, now, then when he did that, now that's what kind of said, okay, all right, so even though I know that I'm counting you for righteousness, you still seem like you just don't really, you believe me, but it might be a little bit of doubt left in there. So this is what we're going to do. He said, take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Now, where do we see these animals at? What other places do we end up seeing these animals being used? Who can tell me?
Temple sacrifice.
Temple sacrifice, exactly. It's the same animals. See, because a lot of people, I guarantee they miss this Genesis 15 all the time. If you ask most people, do they even know about this? They're gonna be like, where you read that at? Now let's look at this. And he took unto him all these and divided them in the midst and laid each piece one against another, but the birds he divided not. All right. Who can tell me what the birds were used for in the sacrifice?
Poor man's.
It's a poor man's sacrifice. Okay, I know you know, wife. Come on, somebody. What did Mary, when she went to the temple, what did she use? After her days of purification. What did she offer up? Come on, y'all. She used a turtle dove or a pigeon. Okay, but and guess what? They never you couldn't divide it. You couldn't cut it in half. Right? And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. When the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. Right? And we'll say you see some scholars will say this is when the children of Israel went into captivity. Then you'll see some scholars that say this is during our time now. Because I mean, what's going on right now in our community ain't nothing but horror. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now you'll hear a lot of people try to use this. This is what this is now. Look, man, I can go back and watch a movie from 1960 when they had them black exploitation movies. They were talking about the 400 years of then. So this is talking about Egypt. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. We already seen this when they came out of Egypt, and this is going to happen again when he gathers us from whatever country that we've been scattered in. And even those that are spiritual Israel, that's what it's really all about. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And we know who they are. We know who these people are, right? And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a what? Smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. Now, we know that anytime that there's a brick or there's a cutting, right? Because it might be because you had different covenants. We know we had a salt covenant. Like if my daughter was getting married to Trey, and Trey's father came to me and was like, they'd be like, look, man, you done already said that she was gonna be Trey's daughter since the time they both were 4 years old. So let's go ahead and make this covenant. Okay, then I'm gonna go get a bag full of salt. All right, he gonna get a bag full of salt, and we gonna pour both of those bags of salt in a bowl. Now, if you can pull out all the salt that you poured in there, each grain, and I could do the same for myself, then guess what? Then the covenant could be broken. But we know that's gonna be impossible as well. That was like that. Sometimes they use a salt covenant, but then sometimes they use animals, and they cut the animal in half. They laid it on the ground, and they both would walk between the pieces, showing that there was a covenant between them. And if either one of us, because we making a covenant, because I'm tired of your sheep coming over here eating up my grass for my cows. Okay, but we neighbors and we supposed to be brothers, so we're not supposed to be arguing. And we're not supposed to do any harm to each other, because according to the law of Yahuwah, I shouldn't even raise my hand to you. So guess what? We're gonna make this covenant, and that means that if any one of us breaks this covenant, then this same thing that was done to this animal could be done to you. That's the covenant. So this is why the pieces was cut and they was laid out there. Then you have a smoking furnace and a burning lamp passing between those pieces. Now, if you notice, Abraham didn't pass between the pieces. Somebody else did it for him. The burning lamp and the smoking furnace. And whenever we look at Yahuwah in all his writings, when we go to the First Testament, what do we see? We always see he's on the mountain, he's over here, it's always coming with fire. See, and we put that in other lessons so you understand that. And the same day, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abraham, saying, "Until thy seed have I given this land, from the river Euphrates, even unto the from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river of Euphrates. The Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites and the Rephaims, and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites," because he's telling them in the future, this is what's going to happen. Your seed is going to go ahead and take all these places that surround Jerusalem. And then not only that, I'm going to have you get rid of this Nephilim bloodline that's out here. So this is why they was wiping out whole cities and animals. It's not because it was a harsh Elohim. It's dealing with these Amorites and these Perishites, and these are the people that was the most contaminated with that. And we've been learning that, right? All right, so we see the covenant was made. So you might want to mark this on your Bible or your tablet, whatever you got. This is what that's all about. Now we can go to 16 and 17, but for the sake of time, I want to get through this lesson some more. And if you forgot all your information on covenant, then guess what? Go up on the site and just go through the covenant class again. Now, this word right here is the word Brit. That's what it is. That's why he's putting it here. And ancient Hebrew has a strong meaning that can be seen through each letter. So remember, we've looked at that. That's why we was talking about learning the alphabet. And I started putting the classes up there, but I didn't really see anybody looking at it, so I said maybe they're not ready yet. But I'm gonna finish putting that up there. Noel, can you go on mute, please? All right.
Trying, sorry.
It's okay. Now, so in ancient Hebrew has a stronger meaning than can be seen through each letter, right? The Bayet equals a house. So we know the Bayet equals a house. It's the Father's house. This is referring to the Father's house in this covenant that we are discussing. The Resh is the head. Our minds and thoughts need to be on how the Father wants us to operate in his house. This is through faith and belief. But see, we know the head also represents the prince, or the Resh is the prince or the head of the Father's house, who is the Mashiach. Then, right, we have the Yod, which equals a hand or arm. This is the works that will follow our faith. Once faith and belief is established, there has to be some works that show your true faith. And that's what Sister Valerie had mentioned. All right. And then we have the Tav, which equals a mark or a sign, or sometimes 100% of the time it also means covenant. So what do we see here? We see the Father. Well, maybe I should, because I'm trying to get into my own thing. I'm supposed to be doing this, but I got to do this. Here's the Father's house. The Son left the Father's house. He's by his strong hand. He's doing all the things he needs to do and for the Father for his mission. Then boom, now he come and then he did what? He got slaughtered for the covenant. That's Brit. It was Brit back then, and it's Brit right now. Ain't this beautiful? Now let's look at this here. So mark a sign. You will be sealed or marked if you follow the rules of the house. Following from the heart, who gave the rules, will allow you to be in his house. See? In my Father's house, there are many rooms. But we've been thinking it's a whole lot of mansion. Important note, the being creating the covenant is the strength of it. So on Sister Kim, you mentioned Mount Sinai. Okay. So the Elohim gave he was the strength of it, because he said, if you do this, if you do this, if you do this, then I'm going to do that. So the parties that want to be a part of the covenant must decide if they want to accept all the terms. What did they say? All that you say, we will do. Now, the following list summarizes the names of persons and the symbol used by Elohim for each covenant. Adam, the Adamic covenant, symbolized by the ground of the earth. Noach, the Noach covenant, symbolized by the rainbow. Abraham, symbolized by the stars. Musha, symbolized by the 2 tablets of the law. Dawid, or Dawood, symbolized by Jerusalem. Mashiach, Yahusha, the new covenant, symbolized by the Pesach, the Passover cup and bread. This is why we're going to have a good time when we go to Florida. I can't wait. We go have Passover, and we go have all week. We gonna have unleavened bread, redemption and restoration, peace, the covenant of peace, and anticipated by the Mashiach's kingdom. Because we just got done reading that you're gonna be to lay down and chill, and you ain't gonna have no more sorrow. See, but we just got to know where to go get the information. And the salt covenant, which I just broke down for y'all, what the salt covenant was. All right, and then also it's the salt covenant. It's also dealing with the priesthood, or us as we supposed to be priests, is because everything that was put on the Father's table, which is what, which was the altar where they sacrificed, they had to put salt on it. And we know if we look at those times, that was a big part of it. If you gave somebody some food without no salt, or you gave a man bread and didn't have no salt in it, okay, right away he feeling like, okay, we enemies. That's how serious this was. So while each of these covenants are with different persons and made at different times, they all share one description. Elohim refers to them individually and collectively as an everlasting covenant or salt covenant. Salt is one of the basic ingredients of life that never goes away. Right now, I don't care what kind of, how we changed our diet, what we was trying to do, whatever. You got to have salt to live on this earth. You ain't got no salt in your body, it's not going to be good for you. All right? Salt is one of the basic ingredients of life that never goes away from generation to generation. Salt is an essential ingredient to our lives. Every sacrifice offered by Yahshua, the priests were instructed to put salt on it. See? Every grain offering of yours, moreover, you shall season with salt, so that the salt of the covenant of your Elohim shall not be lacking from your grain offering. With all your offerings, you shall offer salt. There it is, right there. Boom. All right. All the offerings of the set-apart gifts which the sons of Yahshua offer to Yahuwah, I have given to you and your sons and your daughters with you, as a what? Perpetual allotment. You can't. That word perpetual, I mean, it's there. It can't be done away with. It is an everlasting covenant of salt before Yahuwah to you and your descendants with you. So he's going to bar our numbers, 18 and 19. Let me do this anyway. All right, if I'm moving too fast, then somebody need to say something. We won't be rolling. Elohim has always used simple things that are really a part of our lives to help us understand his relationship with us. Yahusha, the Mashiach, spoke of this very subject when he taught the Sermon on the Mount. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has become tasteless, how will it be made salty again? It is good for nothing anymore except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. And so we know, Trey, can you tell me what was going on at the when he did this? I mean, what similarity do you see? Where did he get this from? How come he always was? It's times when he talked to him out of a boat, and he might, but it's when he talked to all Israel, right? All the exiles when they was coming back. Why did he take them up on the mount? You tell me, Trey. I mean, why was he talking to them from? He was up on the top of a hill, and they were sitting at his feet. What does that mean?
I think it was so that they could believe, right?
Okay, but did that ever happen before? Who could tell me if that ever happened before?
Because it was just to show them about Exodus, just to remind them about Exodus.
Exactly. And what was going on in Exodus? I got it. We've been working on this together because you're the next one because I don't know. I can't remember stuff that good no more. Go ahead. Say what now?
The Most High made the mountain smoke, and thundering and lightning was going on, and and it made the people afraid.
And then what gift did he give them? Came from Moses.
You're talking about the commandments?
Exactly. So now we see here the same thing going on. He's on the top of a hill. They at the bottom of his feet. Because we know in Hebrew culture, that's how when the teachers taught, the people would sit at the teacher's feet. He was always in a higher elevation than them. That's why when you go to church, they got the pulpit set there, and you sitting on the bottom, and he's standing up there. That's what that's really supposed to represent, whether we understand that or not. Because he
Same
said,
thing with his crucifixion. He was up high, they were down low.
right, because he had to be lifted up so all the people could draw to him. The same thing that happened with the serpents in the wilderness when they started tripping again, and then Yahuwah Elohim started sending serpents on them. Okay, Moses grabbed the serpent, put it on a pole. The same thing you'll see with these people with this in Hasatan's kingdom. That means medical, means medication to get healing, but we know that ain't what it is. And then he held it up, and when he held up the pole, everybody that looked to the pole and looked at the serpent, they was what? Then they was healed. They didn't die. So when the people was here, he is on top of the mountain. We know during this story that he had 2 fishes and 5 loaves of bread. Who can break that down for me? Who can tell me why did he do that?
House of Israel, House of Judah.
Those are
5
2
loaves of
fishes.
bread is the 5 books of Moses.
5 books of 5 loaves of bread represent the 5 books of Moses. There you go. All right. Salt is referred to as a preservative. Let us examine each covenant and see how Elohim symbolized it for our understanding. So let's look at this, the Adamic covenant. But y'all got to understand these things because we know that Yahuwah never changes. And if the Mashiach told you before Abraham was, I am, and we know that's one of the names you'll hear a lot of cats say, Ahia, I am, I will be what I be. That was him. And we can go other places to show you that he is the one that gave the commandments. Because as we just got done coming through here, and we broke this down about the word Brit, how he came out the Father's house as a resh. He's the strong arm of the Father. He does all the work. The Father tells him what has to be done, even in the spirit form, and he does it. And then he's the Tav. There you go. It's all there. It's all there. So let's look at this now. Anybody got any questions? Okay. The ground of the earth. Adam was the first man with his wife, Chua, or Chua. At first, they lived in the garden and everything was great. But that all changed. Elohim made a new agreement with man because of their exit from the garden. That agreement is called the Adamic covenant. Until this day, it is still with us. And I will put enmity, and we see this word here, still to this day, between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It just means hatred. He shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you shall bring forth children, yet your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. That's a whole different thing, because it says your desire. If we went and looked that up, it's not talking about she gonna desire him. It's talking about she gonna want to rule over him. That's what that means. And then Yah just told you he gonna do a new thing, didn't he? Then to Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, you have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life, both thorns and thistles it shall grow up for you. And you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken, for you are dust, and the dust you shall return. Now, the man called his wife Chua because she was the mother of all the living. And Yahuwah Elohim made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. Therefore, Yahuwah Elohim sent him out from the Garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. All right, so we know that's the Genesis or Bereshit 3, 3rd chapter. The Adamic covenant is symbolized by the ground of the earth. From the dust of the ground, man came, into the dust he returned. That's real simple right there. But why they keep putting people up in heaven? When Elohim cut the skin from the animals, he made a covering for Adam and Chua, and he made the covenant. See? So we see a covenant was made here. Because why? Why would this be a covenant? Who could tell me? And who could tell me? Not you,
Because there was a cutting of blood.
There was cutting and there was blood that was let, right? To this day, women still bear children in labor and travail. Men must labor and work the ground to be able to eat and provide their needs. Any gardener or farmer will tell you that every field will produce thistles and weeds on its own. It requires work to grow a particular plant or crop and retard the weeds. The earth is man's base, and the ground of the earth is where we labor to live. So let's look at this Noahic covenant of the rainbow covenant. All right. Man became more corrupt to the point that every thought was evil continually. Ain't it like that now? Therefore, Elohim judged the world with a great flood. A new definition was needed between Elohim and mankind. Can't do that right now, brother. All right. Let me see. But I will establish my covenant with you. I'm sorry about that. Let me cut this off because that's one of my brothers trying to call me. My mother was over there, so I'm hoping everything is all right. But we got to finish this first. Because whatever it is what it is. I ain't going to be to change that, right? But I will establish my covenant with you and shall enter the ark, and you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. So we see that's what? Bereshit, chapter 6. Now behold, I myself do establish my covenant with you, and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you. Of all that comes out of the ark, even every beast of the earth, and I will establish my covenant with you. And all flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood, neither shall there again be a flood to destroy the earth. And Elohim said, this is a sign of the covenant which I am making between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all successive generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and shall be up for a sign and of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come about, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And never again shall the water become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the cloud, then I will look upon it to remember the everlasting covenant between Elohim and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. Oh, you thought that was, a lot of us thought that back there, oh, that's a pretty thing. No, that's reminding you of an everlasting covenant. That's why I can't understand this. But people, when they have the agenda and they want that agenda to be what they believe, then this is what they do. They come up with, well, this is the new covenant. No, it's not. It ain't nothing new. Everything in this book, if you know where to go, you can find where. Because Elohim, he don't move no other way. He always move the same way. He always do the same things every time. The rainbow is a symbol for Elohim's covenant with mankind. He will never judge man with a flood of water again. He intends to use fire next time. You will notice that Elohim made this covenant with man and the animal kingdom as well. To this day, rainbows appear in the sky after it rains, and they mean exactly the same thing today as they meant in Noah in his day. How was this covenant cut as soon as the flood was over? Noah emerged from the ark, sacrificed one of every clean animal. The rainbow became our covering. The covenant with Noah did not replace the covenant made with Adam. It was added to it because they don't go nowhere. It's just going to be added. Okay, here's another one. Here's another one. Like you're a lawyer, you got all these covenants. That's why they're supposed to go to school for all these years. And they're supposed to be able to pass the bar because they got to remember all these different laws. All right? Now, the Abrahamic covenant of the stars. Now, I showed y'all one, the covenant I showed you in Genesis chapter 15. Let's go look at this, though. That's the one. Because we could have went to 17. He's going to show you the covenant of circumcision. But when you get to the New Testament, and then you had the apostles came out with their own understanding, talking about, well, the Spirit told us that, right now we don't have to do this. How could that be the right spirit? Because if it was, because you got to remember, they're men. They're not nothing holy. These are men. And so people, see, right here, they don't have to do the commandments no more, because here's the apostle saying, just stay away from animals that strangle, blah, 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 blah. But this is an everlasting thing. It can't go nowhere. And the Pharisees was trying to argue with them about that. But they trying to say, well, no, these are new people and they don't need to. No, you're supposed to go through everything when you come in this thing. It ain't supposed to be no little bit of this and little. It's all or nothing. And that covenant of cutting cannot go away. Because here it is, you are being cut. And there's blood. There's a Brit happening when you get circumcised. And it's everlasting. How could that go away? So that's why when we go to the New Testament or what they call the New Covenant book, or I like to call them the letters of Paul, then you have to understand these things. If you always get stuck anywhere in these writings that the Catholic Church, I already know what they did with all that. Then this is when you got to come back all the way back to the beginning. That's where you're gonna get your answer from every time. Because you got so many verses of different varieties of Bibles out here, man. They have you believing all kind of stuff. But this is why we do this way. 10 generations after Noah and the flood, Elohim began to develop a friendship with man through Abram. This friendship began with promises and future hope, which we already read when the actual new covenant is or the renewed covenant is come and put all together. This is when it's going to take place, because it's going to be friendship, and you're going to be a bride. Now, Yahuwah said to Abram, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house. Isn't this required right now? Because you know good and well, when you go home and you start talking about some commandments, that's like you leaving your relatives, because they're going to help you leave. They don't want to hear that. To the land which I shall show you. Because he's already shown us, what the New Jerusalem is going to be, and I will make you a great nation and will bless you and make your name great. And so you shall be blessed, and I will bless those who bless you, and the ones who curse you, I will curse. And then you, all the families of the earth, shall be blessed. So we know he told them that in Genesis chapter 12. Okay. I mean, this stuff is like beautiful, man. The first part of Abrahamic covenant begins with the theme of the father and blessing. All these things, the word of Yahuwah came to Abraham in a vision, saying, do not fear, Abraham. I am your shield to you. Your reward shall be very great. And he took him outside and said, now look toward the heavens and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. Genesis 15. All right, we just got done reading that. Oh, not now, buddy. All right, any question? All right. The next part of the covenant came with Abraham's name changing and the seal for the covenant. Now, this is why that's what made me start to try to learn the Hebrew, because the alphabet and all these things is because a lot of times in these Hebrew names, or just like we saw up here with the word Brit, that's when you start going through and you read these scriptures and you got to come across something that's a snag. All you got to do is go back to the Hebrew. You can break down what they're saying, and it's going to tell you everything. They can't, no matter what they try to do with that, they can't change that. As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. Did he just say Israel? No. Did he just say black folks that's calling themselves Israel? No. He said a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be called Abraham. Why? Because as long as anybody from anywhere else keeps the commandments, the statutes, the judgment, they keeping the feast days, they walking in the ways, and they've been baptized in the name of Yahuwah. Ain't they in the covenant? Yes, and they from a multitude of nations. You're gonna start seeing a lot of this happening now. No longer shall your name be called Abraham, but your name shall be called Abraham. See, that's if we broke that down, you would be like, wow. You would be like, wow, but we ain't got time to do that right now. Okay, well, I will make you a father of a multitude of nations, and I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and will make nations of you, and kings shall come forth of you. If you don't understand that, I know for a fact that's in the class on the covenants. I break that down for you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant to be Elohim to you and to your descendants after you. And I will give to you and to your descendants after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be the Elohim. This is when Abraham became Abraham. Abram became Abraham, and the reason it is called the Abrahamic covenant, it wasn't just with Abraham. Just as Elohim had 3 parts to the covenant, so he used 3 generations of fathers and sons to establish it. We will examine that more in a moment. But let's understand the name change a little bit. Okay, he's going to go into it for you. Abraham had 1 letter added to his name, the letter Hey. This letter is an actual picture of the slightly open doorway. The meaning of this letter is that which is revealed, because we know Hey is being all, right? Being all the Father, what's getting ready to be revealed to you. Elohim was revealing himself, his esteem, and his relationship with Abraham. Abraham's name was now esteemed. Didn't he say, I'm going to make your name great? He's doing this. Let's look at the final part of Abraham covenant. Elohim said further to Abraham, now as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generation. This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. Okay, and so this is part of the covenant. See, so that's why I said when you go to these, when you get to these letters of Paul and all fooling around in that part of the book, that everybody says is the only book and you don't need none of this, always got to come back to the commandments. That's what's going to give you all the judgments or the statutes going to tell you what to do. And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. And it shall be what? A sign of the covenant between me and you. What does this word sign mean? We should remember that. Can anybody tell me?
A warning?
A warning. So it's also, exactly,
Distinguishing mark.
it's a distinguishing mark. So when you circumcise, if that as a man, and I played sports, and it ain't no doubt about it. When you circumcise, it's a distinguishing mark. Because if you ain't, then we know that you have not been circumcised. See, you got to understand these things. Plus, it goes a little bit deeper than that. You know, and it's also a warning to you, right? But it goes a little bit deeper than that. So that means by you being circumcised, when you go in and you and your wife have relations, that seed that comes out of you, it's under the covenant, because it's passing through a covenant skin. It's passing through a circumcised skin. Man, y'all ain't nothing to play with. This thing is very, very serious. And you shall be circumcised in your flesh and your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of a covenant between me and you. Every male among you who is 8 days old shall be circumcised. Okay, the Mashiach did that, didn't he? They did it to him. So how the apostles just gonna come and say, well, right now I don't think they need to do that. No, because they was men. That's what they said throughout your generations. A servant who is born in a house or who is bought with money from any foreigner. So whoever, you want to be a part of this, in this household, you want to be a part of Yahuwah's household, it don't matter who you are. You're going to have to follow these instructions. Who is not of your descendants, right? Because we just got done reading what repentance is in Jeremiah 31. It's to turn away from what you're doing and follow instructions. A servant who is born in your house or who is bought with your money shall surely be circumcised. Thus shall my covenant be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. That's why this is so important. Now, and that's Genesis chapter 17, which we just got done going through. All right, not worthy. This covenant was added or attached to the Pesach or Passover, which is attached to the Mashiach. Okay, we're going to stop right here. And we'll stop the